Welcome to Dose with Grace. I hope you're doing well and taking very good care of yourself. In this video, continuing from the last one, where we did discuss the glories of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, its teachings, and its relevance into our real life. Today we will be continuing the same with Ramayan. Shri Valmiki Ramayan. You may wonder, what is the relevance of Shri Valmiki Ramayan in today's times? After all, it's a text, a history that was in another yuga, and that too, Treta Yuga, which was just after Satyuga. Such high consciousness levels. In today's world of Kali Yuga, how are we ever going to benefit from the learnings of Ramayan? Isn't it a story that is so dated? Well, trust me, when you will start reading Ramayan, first of all, these transcendental texts have a completely different energy of their own. The most beautiful learning of Ramayan, especially the one that I'm reading, Shri Valmiki Ramayan, is the learning we receive from this wonderful being who is the avatar of Vishnu, Shri Ram. Shri Ram was devoted to the welfare of everyone in the world. Sarva Bhuteshu Hit. How many people we have examples today who are like Shri Ram? I don't really know even one person. Yes, there may be someone who is working towards the welfare of their own country, like Mr. Ratan Tata recently passed away. Amazing human being. And similarly, we have many more. But someone who is devoted completely to the welfare of others, despite living a proper domestic life. There is hardly many examples, or hardly even one example of that stature in today's world. But it is not impossible to be that. And Sri Ram, living in our own land, walking in the flesh and blood, taught us that it is possible. He always thought of others and not just his self-interest. He always thought of others and not his self-interest. This was the difference. Not just his self-interest, but not his self-interest. He was kind, gentle, benevolent, and caring. He had a cheerful and a very pleasant personality. As we see entire Ramayan, it is so pleasant to even say the word Ram. And it's so delightful to read about the story, and especially the parts where Sri Ram is mentioned. Because even the literal meaning of Ram is the one who delights. Such is the effect of Ramayan when we read it. It calms our senses, makes us feel very connected to our inner being, almost like meditative. In this text, as we see, there are 7 kandas, starting from the Bal Kand, then Ayodhya Kand, then Aranya Kand, then Kishkindha Kand, then Sundar Kand, and then Yuddha Kand. And then there is one more Kand that is added, and it is generally said that it is not actually written by Valmiki ji. It was added in the later translations, which is the Uttara Kand. In this, as the narration goes from Ayodhya Kand, from the Bal Kand to Yuddha Kand, what we see is that the Ram's qualities, all the qualities that are mentioned in the first video that I have posted regarding Ramayan, They are tested under the extremes of circumstances. It's not that he's called kind and gentle in the times when he's happy and everything is going fine and there is so much abundance around him. He's kind and gentle and benevolent even in the most extreme circumstances. He's pleasant even in the circumstances anybody will feel that world is against them and they have been let down by their own people. There are many examples in the Ramayan that where we see that on the day of his coronation, Ram was to be coronated as the would-be king of Ayodhya, the prince of Ayodhya, and the next in line for the throne. There's one moment he's having the world at his feet, and the next moment he's sent on an exile. He's asked to leave for 14 years into the forest where it is full of rakshasas, full of demons, and you know what happened in Aranyakand and Sundarkand and Yodhakand. Such a difficult, rigorous, almost dangerous life on everyday basis. Look at the extremes in just one day for no fault of his own. And he was given these orders and he was let down by someone he called as his mother. But as I said, his pleasantness, his gentleness, and his qualities are not just tested in these times when he's in a perfect setting. In these extreme circumstances, he accepted it without a word and ensured that the dharma was upheld by making sure he fulfills the word of his father and leaves Ayodhya gracefully, cheerfully, pleasantly, and compassionately for 14 years. Through these episodes, we understand that how Ram exemplified something so important as a virtue, so subtle as a virtue, but often so underrated, which is acceptance. Most of our life problems exist from the fact that we don't see things the way they are. We see things the way we want to see them, through the lens of agony, suffering, pain, or ego, desires, or rag and dvesh, through the lens of too much attraction towards it or too much repulsion towards it. But Ram exemplified acceptance, that whatever came his way, he accepted it gracefully and only to uphold dharma, which means dharma means the essence of what it is to be. Later, as we see in the Aranyakand, as well as more importantly in the Aranyakand, where Sita is kidnapped by Ravan, Ram exemplified action orientation. It was so difficult to track down Sita where she was, and Ram was without any army. He was basically living as a sannyasi and by the very meager means in the forest, as he was serving a sentence for 14 years, the exile for 14 years. But how in those times, when he had no means, he made wonderful allies, he made excellent friendships, and those were made on the basis of trust, love, compassion, mutual respect, and exchange of strength, love, and there was so much devotion towards Ram in the process of all those who came along to help him. And they were not the kings and the big merchants like that. They were just Vanars. So he used whatever was available to him, but he respected it. He respected his resources, and he gave them a great sense of direction with a great compassionate sense of understanding of each one's strength and his own commitment and reciprocation of their love and devotion and their contribution and support towards him. For example, in Kishkinda Kand, Ram first helped Sugriv get his empire back, and then Sugriv later on helped Ram through and his entire Vanar Sena to help find Sita. Hanuman was shown his own strength by Jamvan. Hanuman was given the amount of respect and love that he so richly deserved, and that's why we all know what Hanuman is to Ram and what Ram is to Hanuman. Though it was a search of Sita, but it was never done in an unambiguous, impulsive, painful, and in a way that caused a lot of suffering to Ram. He was very much at peace, very much balanced. So that is how Ram exemplified action to all of us. Again, a quality spoken a lot these days, but not in the way that we learn through Ramayan. That what is the right action? Every action must have the right intention, and it must be followed through the right means, followed through in the right way, and with compassion and with generosity of heart, with the purpose always stated in the mind, with the right intention as the basis of that action. That is why we call Shri Ram as Maryada Purushottam. And Purushottam means the highest of the man with the highest qualities and a highest example of a human being. What is the relevance of all of this? What is the relevance of learning through Ramayan the subtle qualities of acceptance and action orientation? Today it is the world where there is a lot that changes by the minute, and things change drastically over a year. And this world is becoming more and more action oriented. More and more things are happening at a very fast pace. So here is the relevance that is we can seek from Ramayan into our own practical day-to-day lives. It is so relevant in every step. As I'm reading Ramayan, I'm realizing it is so relevant in every step that it is actually meant to be read again and again, so that whatever are the teachings, whatever are the learnings that you get out of seeing the life of a man who is led through difficulties and through different trying circumstances and through very little means, what it teaches us, the right action becomes our default action. The right way of perceiving things and acting upon it becomes our default method. This is what Ramayan, reading Ramayan and understanding Ramayan does to us. This is how it changes. It brings that kind of a subtle change in our energy, in our life, in our perception. And definitely when that happens, what does it do? From the outside, what the changes can be seen is that it builds our character. When the character is built within, all the things outside start changing. The thought process leads to the right kind of decision making, and it leads to right kind of action out there in the world. Most of the time we think that, oh, the story of Ramayan, if I really ask you, I think offhand, what do you think is the story of Ramayan? Most of us reduce it to a fight between Ram and Ravan. So basically, a fight between one king who is asked to go for an exile to another king who is probably very rich and has Sone ki Lanka, Lanka made of gold, rich and a powerful king fight with another king. Or we may say it was a fight between two races, you know, the race of human and Rakshasas. It's so unfortunate that if we reduce the entire Ramayana to just Ram and Ravan, in fact, it is actually the story of a great man, how he's facing and overcoming the challenges of life. If you really see from the Balkand, how they are sent for education into the Gurukul, and moving on to Ayodhya Khan, what happens within few hours in a family, and then what happens in the society as a reverberation of it, and then moving to Aranya Khan when they go to a forest, how is the forest life treating them? How Ram meets many sages and learns a lot from them, receives a lot of tools and weapons, which in future will come to his rescue or will be used by him. How by default, even though he goes for a different purpose, but he basically takes away or takes care of the misery of lot of sadhus, lot of saints who are Brahmins and who are practicing dharma in the forest, and all these demons, they come and trouble them. This was not his motive to go to forest. His motive was to just stay 14 years there. But how the story moves on. So basically, it is the story of a great man facing and overcoming the great challenges of life. There is no other side to Ramayan. If you read it like that, then you see how relevant it becomes into our lives too. It actually demonstrates an ideal behavior of Sri Ram through his different roles he plays, as a son, as a student, as a husband, as a prince, as a friend, and even as an adversary. How to behave in these roles of life is what is exemplified through the story of Ramayan by Shri Valmiki ji. Therefore, since we all have these roles in our life, the story of Ramayan is extremely useful as a guide to read and learn, imbibe, and then live through our lives. It is not easy to coach, but through his own life, Sri Ram has coached all of us. And we have this scripture that we can just open and read and understand how to be. Isn't that such a wonderful tool for us to ease out our sufferings and pain in life? So what does Ramayan help us realize? How to make the right decisions. Ask yourself, there are 4 things I'll put in front of you, and just try to internalize these 4 things, and you will have your answers. If you have been stuck, and if you were confused about what decision to take for a certain thing, whether it was your personal life, emotional life, your family life, your professional life, your finances, or even something related to your friends, if you have any question, Just think of these 4 parameters, and these parameters are from Ramayan. You will fully understand how beneficial it is to take right decisions when you read these texts. Number 1, can we think beyond ourselves and our self interest? If there is something that is bothering you and you're not very sure what decision to take, ask yourself, can you think beyond yourself and your self interest? Is your self interest and not wanting to think beyond yourself is what is limiting your choices? Can we choose the right thing to do even when the costs are high? Or are we so bothered just about the cost involved? And here the cost could be money, the cost could be time, cost could be your own emotions, cost could be service that you have to do, something that you have to do or give. Can we choose the right thing to do even when the costs are high? This will help you make the right decision. Can you? Third, do we support others when they need us, or we shrink ourselves to only ourselves? Do we really support others, or we just fake it, or we just say it for the heck of it? Or do we really support others when they need us? And especially when we are very capable also. How many times it has happened that you knew that someone you know needs your support, but you have not bothered to offer them? How many times it has happened that you knew that someone needed your support and you just were very lazy, or you put it off as not your agenda? These are amazing questions for us to reflect upon. Sometimes our challenges feel insurmountable and we feel overwhelmed. Sometimes we feel hopeless, or we become angry or even bitter. These are the times. And who doesn't go through this? Who doesn't go through challenges? Who doesn't feel overwhelmed at times? Who doesn't feel hopeless at times? Who doesn't feel angry at times? And who hasn't become slightly bitter? We all have. In these times, thinking of a Ram, Lakshman, Sita and Hanuman we remind ourselves to keep going and to never give up. This is the strength. Thus, Ramayan is actually a text, a scripture, or a living legend that gives us supreme energy. It is actually extremely energizing text. And trust me, you sit down with Valmiki Ramayan and read one page, you will feel way better than you felt when you began reading it. You will not be able to explain to yourself why it is happening, but it is supremely energizing. That is why in Sanskrit it is called Ojas Karam. Ojas means energizing. Karam means it is. It is energizing. And once all that can be done is done, at times we try things, we give our best. At times we don't. So Ramayan teaches us to do the right action at the right time, in the right way, with the right intention, and never give up. But we sometimes keep doing, and don't know where to let go also. So when all that can be done is done, Ramayan teaches us to cheerfully accept whatever life is bringing to us. Such is the beauty of Ramayan. Sometimes all we have to do is surrender, to accept cheerfully and peacefully. Thus, Ramayan is relevant to all of us in all times, in the times of happiness, to know what is the What is this happiness teaching us? How are our actions during these moments of happiness affecting people around us? Checking our ego at times of in times of greatness, and checking our sorrow in times of overwhelming, hopeless situations. Actually, in this whole scripture, there is no advocacy of a certain ritual by Sri Ram. There is no advocacy of a certain dogma by Sri Ram. He doesn't he doesn't bring out a baggage of one should do that or one should do that. He's just giving through his own through his own life. Basically, Sri Ram exemplifies to us what is the ideal behavior in different situations and in different roles of our life. So, in fact, qualities like bravery, generosity, gratefulness, thoughtfulness, caring, and compassion are very beautifully seen through the story of Sri Ram, though not clearly advocated by him. There is no preaching happening, but there is a way of life that teaches us these things through the story of Sri Ram and the story of Ramayan. That is why this is such a comprehensive understanding of how to live life through the characters, through the descriptions, through the beautiful grammatic composition of Shri Valmiki ji, in which you will realize as I will go through chapters that it is written in such a transcendental form. He has seen, he's been made to see this by Lord Brahma himself. The nuances and the way he has been able to put them in shlokas of right length and right breaking, right pronunciation, and with the way it is being said, it is so beautifully narrated. If you really read the Ramayan or hear Ramayan through the YouTube videos, you will, even if you don't fully understand the script, the way it is written, but it is so beautifully, its meaning gets somehow transferred into your heart. Such is the composition of Ramayan. And as I just shared with you, the relevance of the learnings of a great and ideal life being led in this real world with the real people, and people who are of all types. There were good people, there were people with vested interests, there were people who were against dharma. So all of these learnings are put together in the story of Ramayan and served to us. And we should be so grateful that it is available so easily for us to learn. I would say, in this age when we are going and taking holy dip all the way to Ganges in Mahakumbh, our real scriptures are that Mahakumbh in which we can take a dip every day, little by little, and take this nectar and make our life beautiful, spiritual, peaceful, fulfilling, and really uplifting. Energize yourself with the energy of Ram Nam and make yourself happy, beautiful soul, using this precious life to take yourself to the elevated heights of happiness and bliss. Jai Shri Ram.